Welcome to Joe Montana Football.
I've previously discussed Sega's marketing strategy of signing celebrity names to their sports games. Generation 16 has already covered games featuring Tommy Lasorda, Arnold Palmer, Buster Douglas, and Pat Riley. But in 1990, Sega of America president Michael Katz made what was arguably the biggest, best pro-athlete deal in video games at the time. He signed Joe Montana. According to an interview in Stephen Kent's Ultimate History of Video Games, Katz not only convinced Sega of Japan to sign Montana to a 5-year, $1.7 million contract, but he managed to steal that deal right out from under Nintendo, who'd been courting Joe as well. And honestly, that number's not too surprising. Montana was one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. Joe had made it to the Super Bowl 4 times and he'd never lost. In fact, he still holds a few Super Bowl records to this day. In his 4 Super Bowl appearances, he never threw 1 interception, and he's the only man who's been voted Super Bowl MVP 3 times. In 1990, Joe was basking in the glory of back-to-back Super Bowl wins. What better spokesperson could Sega have for its Genesis? There was only one catch. When Sega signed Montana, it didn't actually have a game development studio in America. And Sega's Japanese developers had 0 experience making a US-style football game. Nonetheless, Joe Montana Football was set to be Sega's flagship game for the Christmas season of 1990. And so the search began for a good development team. This is where Mediagenic comes in. You'd probably know them better by their other name, Activision. Around this time, Mediagenic had a football game in development called Hyperball. It claimed that the game could be converted to Joe Montana Football and be released by the end of the year. And so Sega bankrolled the rest of development in hopes of having Joe Montana Football for Christmas. But Mediagenic was apparently in turmoil, something that Katz claimed it hid from Sega very effectively for most of the year. It wasn't until around September of 1990 that Sega discovered there was no way Joe Montana Football and the Genesis would be complete by the end of the year, if it would ever be done at all. Now it was time to panic. After spending all that money on the greatest quarterback in the game, Katz was about to waste the first year of the 5-year contract. He needed to pull off a fourth-quarter comeback worthy of Joe himself if the Genesis was going to have its flagship game for the coming holiday. Where he turned to for help was a little bit surprising, to say the least, but we'll talk about that a little bit more in a future episode. Sega did release some Joe Montana football games in 1990 though. The first one was Joe Montana on the Master System. It was actually a flagship title for the relaunch of the Master System in the US, called the Master System 2. Sega had gotten the distribution rights for the Master System back from Tonka, redesigned the system, and put it back out onto the market. This version was actually developed by Blue Sky Software, which is going to become a major player in future episodes of Generation 16. Sega also released Joe Montana Football on the PC. This version was developed by a company called Mindspan, which was most well known for developing the Hardball series for Accolade.